We're rolling. Let's talk a little bit more about light, shall we? We're going to talk about using something called available light. And available light is the light that's available. I'm not using any lamps, I'm not using any fancy LED things, I'm just using the light that's coming in the windows, basically. Or if you're outside, the light that's around you. If you're using a phone, for the most part, it's going to take care of itself as best it can. But even, you can see, as I'm moving around, it was bright for a second, and now it's kind of dimmed down. If I move out of the light, it's a little bit dark on me, but it brightens up a little bit. That can be a blessing and a curse. For example, when you're outside, you're probably going to want the sun behind you for reasons of comfort. And I don't like having the sun in my eyes. And the cameras don't particularly like having the sun in their eyes either. As you can tell by how bright the background is compared to me. Now, you can do that for special effects if you want, but not particularly good. On the other hand, that's pretty bright. And if I have like a hat or sunglasses on, we're back into the same position where you can't really see me all that well. So somewhere there's a middle ground. And that's what we're looking for when we're using available light outside. So let's see if we can find some shade, shall we? Oh, this is more comfortable, don't you think? So I'm in the shade, which makes me more comfortable, makes my face more natural because I'm not squinting against the sun. But I'm also kind of in the medium brightness range compared to the really super bright background. For the most part, the camera's going to take care of that all by itself and give you the best image it can. But what we have to watch out for is confusing it like that. If I'm in dappled sunlight, then it's going to make it harder for the camera to decide exactly what to focus on in terms of its brightness adjustments. But if you're giving people a tour of something that you have to show outside, for the most part, they're going to be tolerant of the different lighting conditions. It's just the way it is when you're outside using a smartphone and you're not using a whole bunch of fancy lighting equipment from, movie supply houses and whatnot. We don't have big silks and fancy lights and that kind of thing. Or even reflectors. You can if you want, but it gets pretty complex pretty fast. And if you're just trying to get something out the door, then all you have to do is be mindful of how bright the background is compared to how bright your face is, and everything should take care of itself for the most part. When you're indoors, though, things can be a little trickier. For example, if you're shooting with a laptop or at your desk where you normally work, your desk is usually set up to have your desk surface well lit rather than you. Nobody likes working with bright lights in their eyes, and that's exactly what the camera's expecting, bright lights in your eyes. Now, the room I'm in happens to have a lot of light coming in from the side, but you can see that this is not a very well set up lighting for me. I've got this strange shadow down there. I feel like a skunk in reverse. And the background over there is really super bright. What the heck is that? It distracts attention from me. If you're just delivering a voice message for something kind of informal, this is fine. Most people are going to be able to get past the lighting issues. But if you want to take more control over your video presence in this moment when video presence really seems to be more important than it was a few months ago, you're going to want to pay more attention to the lighting on your face than the lighting on your work surface, and that can take a little bit of figuring out. I'm sitting at the same table, for example, as I just was a moment ago, but I've turned around the corner just to get more light from this direction because there's a big window over there. Even though this isn't perfect lighting, it's a little bit less distracting. The skunk face is gone, and even though that over there is really super bright and hard to tell what it is, it's less distracting because my face is a little bit more evenly lit, a little bit more of a standard set of lights or angles of lighting. And that just comes from looking around at the windows and where the light is coming in, and to see how I can make the available light match the way you would set up lighting if you were controlling exactly where the lights were placed. And if you haven't seen it already, I have a video about how to place the lights, and up there is a link to watch that one if you want. But this one we're just talking about available light. No setup needed. Let's see how we can do this with the least amount of effort possible. One relatively simple way of controlling your lighting with available light is to get really close to your background. I'm right here next to this wall. And then turn until the available light, which in this case is coming from the big window that you might have seen at the beginning of this shot, and turn until it looks about like you want it to. Not too bad. Kind of a 3/4 angle light to me, a little bit of shadow to give my face at least a little bit of three-dimensional looks, not, perfectly flat like that. And nothing in the background to distract from the message that I'm giving you. Simple, huh? Although my arm's going to get tired because I'm not sitting at a desk. And if you're recording with a mobile phone, you have the obvious advantage of being mobile. And frequently, if you can't focus on getting perfect light, what you can focus on is getting a background behind you that isn't difficult for the camera to deal with. Like in this case, I'm trying to focus on having something dark in the background and maybe something interesting, but, maybe focus on it a little less because I am the point, or whatever it is I'm saying is the point of this particular message rather than whatever it is behind me. This almost looks like I'm showing off what's in the display case. We have to be kind of careful of having a distracting background just in terms of subject matter, but lighting-wise, this is a pretty good compromise, even though it's really flat on me and not particularly flattering. But the biggest challenges are probably going to be if you have to record in an indoor space that is an office where you're at your desk, or maybe you're using a webcam on a laptop or even a desktop, and you don't have too many options for where to move that camera. You don't have too many options for the background, and you don't have too many options for available light. I can't move the window. In that case, your two main options are going to be to move the camera as much as you can and control the background as much as you can. Like I might change that out for something darker, or get something like a Japanese blind. I know that's not simple, but if you're going to be doing this regularly, like Zoom meetings and whatnot, you could put a Japanese blind behind you, or something like it, and control the background that way. What I might also do here, since I have this light coming from the side, because where I am right now, the window is right there, I might move the camera a little off to the side. Now if I have a laptop, I could also move that to be more in line with the camera, or in fact it's probably on the laptop itself. So I'm still looking at the meeting, perhaps, if that's what you're doing. But this is definitely a much better light. You don't necessarily want to be straight on the light, although that's not too bad either. But again, now we're running into background issues in this particular location. But this gives us a little bit more of a controlled background with, again, that sort of 3/4 lighting that gives the face dimension while lighting it well. But an indoor space, such as an office where you're going to be doing video conferencing regularly, you're probably not going to be using available light anyway. You're probably going to, again, be using lights that you can set up, and you have much more control over it that way. You can also control the audio. So just sort of to summarize, the use of available light in video, what you're trying to do is make sure that the background isn't so well lit that you disappear into the camera making decisions about what it should focus on and what it shouldn't. And you can frequently kind of game that just by turning and making sure that the background is darker and that the light coming on to your face is not to the side, not directly to the side, because that's where you get this sort of half in shadow, half out, but maybe 3/4. Full on isn't too bad, but it also isn't particularly flattering. So we can again turn and get a little bit more shadow on the other side of the face. Now this is really super dark in the background. Assuming that there isn't anything in the background that I'm talking about, this is a pretty good use of one window and a dark sort of hallway to get a decent image. So again, paying attention to what angle the light is hitting your face from, and how dark the background is, or light the background is, relative to the amount of light on you. You being the most important thing in most of the videos you're going to be shooting this way. Thanks for joining me for this sort of lightweight look, at the use of available light. And if you found it helpful, go ahead and give me a like, consider subscribing if you would. And have a look in the links below. If you like the sound, I've got a link to the microphone I've been using, which really helps a smartphone like this sound good. And, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. We'll catch you next time. Geez, that's bright.